Yes, Ginny, you may start.
A very good evening, friends. Welcome aboard the Flight Arts CCS1 with Dr. Archana Tandon, a gynecologist by profession and writer, a blogger, and photography enthusiast as your pilot. Dr. Archana.
Hello, friends. Thank you for logging in. Uh,
The other co pilots are photography enthusiasts too. I am Ginny Tandon, stay at home mom. We have with us Dr. D.S. Hanspal, DIG BSF Medical, posted in Agartala. Dr.
Hi, good
Hanspal.
evening. Welcome to everyone.
And Mr. Arvind Sir, whom we consider doctorate in photography because of his knowledge and excellent shots. Arvind Sir.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, all.
We will be sharing with you our captures and sharing the multidimensional stories, the camera types, and why we use this type of camera. Sharing with you the difficulties encountered and how we overcame it. By the time it is to land, we hope to have cleared the concept. Viewers are requested to post their queries, if any, in the comment box. Over to you, Dr. Archana.
so, we'll be discussing the types of cameras today. And by the end of the session, we hope to uh, make you understand, make you realize that each of your camera which you possess is the best, and clear some concepts. We hope to clear some concepts. If you are thinking of buying a camera, you may consider the suggestions as when we describe that in detail the working of each camera, the advantages and disadvantages. So the history of camera dates back to before 5th century BC. People understood that image can be formed even before 5th century BC, when during an eclipse they saw an image of sun form on the ground by rays passing through in between the leaves. And history of pinhole camera, camera obscura, dates back to 5th century BC. At that time, there was no sensor, just an image was formed, and people used to color inside those outlines to make a picture. In 1837, Louis Jacques Mann-de-Daguerre and Niepce, his partner, were successful in making a light-sensitive sensor and called this type of developing process as daguerreotype processing. They sold it to the German government, and German government patented it. So first time the processing, a sensor was developed. In 1888, Kodak came up with its first camera from which photographs could be developed manually. And in 1960, commercially viable SLR was in the market. In 1977 to 80, SLR single lens reflex cameras ruled, but you had to put a film inside it instead of the sensor that we see today. In 1980, the Polaroid camera was in fashion for it printed the images immediately. 80 to 85, somewhere between 80 to 85, the DSLR started becoming popular. And in 1995, the digital technology came into the market, and digital compacts were in the market. 1999 saw the emergence of mobile cameras because by then the digital compacts had got thinner and thinner, and then mobile cameras were launched. And today, the mirrorless, which had been launched in 2018 by Sony, and the mobiles are competing in the market, the larger part of the market being occupied by the mobile cameras. So let's talk about this order is somewhat not correct. It should be ultra compact, compact, then large sensor compact, and then came in bridge cameras, then DSLR. Professional DSLR and bridge cameras and mirrorless are still in the market, and bridge camera too is there. There are specific indications for each one of them. So we discuss mobile camera. This is a shot taken by mobile camera, and this is one taken with a DSLR. This shot I took while standing quite near to the statue. You may realize it by seeing this mount. All these structures, I was standing in front of these structures. So when I was so much near to the Buddha statue, this was what I could capture. In this small screen, it appears to be a very good image, but if you enlarge it on a bigger screen, larger than the TV, noise can be seen and the picture is not that clear. I mean, the details are not captured that well. While in a DSLR, I have shot this from quite some distance, say about 200 meters, 100 to 200 meters still. And this is not a developed shot, this is a raw film. And you can see that the Buddha statue is much clearer. And if you see it in a screen larger than the TV, then also you can get all the details. This is another shot taken by a mobile. This is to show what zooming in does in a DSLR, because we cannot get close to this sleeping mother with the baby. They are very about this. I had to shoot it from quite a distance. And backlit image I got, if I enlarge it, so you can see the noise in this shot. But I wanted to get a clearer, the professional mode, and I used spot metering, and this is what. So the image, the story is seen. There is a mother holding the baby, both are sleeping, but the details are not visible. Because what happens in a mobile camera, even if it is 100 pixel, the pixel size is very small. The sensor size of a mobile, of high-end mobile, is not larger than 8 millimeters. So it's between 6 millimeters to 8 millimeters sensor of mobile. And the pixel, as compared to DSLR, they are very small. So when you take a picture in a dimly lit condition, 4 pixel combine to make one pixel, and the shot is captured by a 25 megapixel camera instead of a 100 pixel camera, that too of a mobile. So the noise is intense. In a zoomed shot, in a situation where light is dim. Then you can create a blur with a mobile camera also, but the blur is not that good as we see in a DSLR. And the subject has to be very close to the lens, but the colors in the background, you don't get that kind of a blur. HDR photography too, you can do with a mobile camera when there's light outside and the structure is inside in a shaded environment. But you have to use the professional mode, and you have to meter according to the structures in the shade. But the HDR is of a mobile is very different from that in a DSLR. For if you take it in a DSLR, 3 pictures are taken and then you club them together. Though now cameras are available which where the camera does it for you, but if you take 3 pictures and do it in a software, the pictures are much better. This is again a shot taken by a mobile. So long exposure shots too can be taken by these high-end mobiles which are available nowadays. This is 1/10 of a second and 800 ISO. So when I zoom into this picture on a larger, I can see it, but I don't know whether it is visible on a mobile if you're seeing. The grains are seen very well. So even 800 ISO is producing a lot of noise. Whereas Dr. Again by a mobile, a long exposure shot. This I had taken to show that even a 10-second exposure can be done by a mobile, and nowadays mobiles are available with 30-second exposure too, where you can shoot a photograph of galaxy uh, to using a mobile. So this is a 10-second exposure, and see there is no noise. So for 50 ISO, I have used here, the noise is less, but when I used 800, there was quite a lot of noise. Noise is grainy appearance of the picture. So to sum up, mobile cameras have the biggest place in photography because they are smart and portable, and they are fast and easy to use. They have a variety of shooting modes. Hello, can you hear me?
We can't see
Hello?
you.
Dr. Archana, we can see you. We can just only hear you.
We can't see you.
It's okay. You can hear me, no? Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Just a minute. क्या करूं?
अब आप मेरा वो आ रहा होगा आई फोन करके वाईफाई
Jagat Vivad Chamanpreet. So they are fast and easy to use. There are a variety of shooting modes, including manual, and there is option for instant sharing, very popular with the younger group. Though for the younger group, I would suggest the higher end DSLRs, the entry level DSLRs and mirrorless. So full of apps for editing. So instant editing is possible. They are most popular. So they are carried 24/7 with us, even by the bedside. People have it during night. Limited lenses. Maximum lenses possible in mobile cameras is 4, and the sensor size is very small. And the high-end mobile cameras, which has all these qualities, are very expensive, but they make up for the cost by being multi-purpose. Courtesy these mobile phones, Olympus closed after 84 years in 2020, June. And Fuji also faced loss, but that loss was made up by the American government because it was manufacturing COVID vaccine. So it still is in the market with its medium format cameras and others. And rumor was there that Panasonic too was closing, but it was just a rumor. Whereas Kodak, which did not upgrade itself with digital technology, it was bankrupt in 2012. It declared itself bankrupt. So next we come to compact camera. And compact camera I had with me from 1997. So this is a shot from which I took in 1997 with a 8 megapixel compact camera in Corbett. Here I want to show this too has been taken in 1997 with the same compact camera. I was successful in taking a shot of the Himalayan ranges. You can see Nanda Devi over here. Now orbit and not there. Utilizing the full optical zoom. This is what I got. And when I further increased the zoom to digital zoom, this is what I could capture with a lot of noise, but the outline of Nanda Devi is quite clear. So even those cameras during those days, just 8 megapixel cameras, they could do the job of keeping the records and happenings of our lives. And this is a shot from Binsar of a sunset with the same 8 megapixel camera. So it is always the photographer behind. All cameras can do what you want. So compact cameras are small and portable. They are fast and easy to use, just as mobile. Zoom lens, because they have a zoom lens, so they have an advantage over mobile. Though now we have zoom lens for mobiles too, but it can be attached with a clip, and there is always a risk of falling of these zoom lenses, and whatever zoom is there in the mobile is not of the order of what we can do with the DSLR. So variety of shooting modes are available, just as in mobiles. They are expensive, so they are becoming redundant due to smartphones. And if you ask me that I have a high-end mobile camera, should I go in for a compact camera, I would not be able to say yes. So then coming to the bridge cameras, over to you, Mr. Arvind.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, doctor. Good evening, friends. Bridge cameras are nothing but they are like working to connect with the DSLR, which are the professional cameras, and the ones aim and shoot, or the ones which you saw earlier, which doctor was showing the images of, the 8 megapixel camera, which is showed aim and shoot cameras, that is point and shoot cameras, and the DSLR. Something should come in between that, so that is why this bridge name was invented by the manufacturer. Bridge is nothing but the aim and shoot camera with a bigger zoom, with a bigger sensor size, and coming up to the level of DSLR cameras in way of modes, in the way of operating the camera. Though they will not match because of the sensor size limitation is there, and also because of the lens. The bridge, but one thing advantage of bridge camera is such that now these images which you are seeing on the screen are taken from one position only, you can say, means that the distance must be about 50 or 70 feet away from the statue there in the middle of Shankara, and we can see that without moving you can zoom in, because the bridge cameras have got very good zoom. This camera which I was using had 36 magnification, 36x zoom was there, so I could click the entire scene also as if we're using the wide setting of the lens, or I could go close with full zoom and only get, you see the lion's face which you are sitting on, you could see that, and the clarity is there. So bridge cameras do give good results, provided you should be able to operate them that way. Means you should know the limitation of your equipment, what you have. The light was deteriorating over here, it was evening time, it was coming down. I had to push up the ISO a little, but then up to a certain extent, you can push the ISO 400. ISO is good. You can get very good results with that. But if you go up, then like doctor had said, you will get grains in it. That is digital noises induced in this when you give higher ISO. So it's better to operate knowing what your camera can give you. So what equipment you have in your hand, you should know the limits of that and use it. So these are the images I took from one position only by using just the zoom of the bridge camera. Yes, next ma'am, please. The difference what you get in a bridge camera and in a DSLR is this: the bridge camera has got this you can say a disability of taking images in means in daylight, that is having very strong light and very deep shadows. So you lose a lot of details in the shadows when you take images with a bridge camera. This is what is known as actually the luminance between the brightest and the darkest. That range is very less in bridge camera, whereas in a DSLR you will get a bigger range in that. So that is why when you use a bridge camera, you have got to be sure what you want to click, what you want to show, and in that's why it is better to focus on an average lighted scene and click, so you'll get the image good. Here what was happening, the contrast was too much in the bright lights and there was a deep shadow in the foreground, so we lose a lot of details in the shadows. So that way, if you use a DSLR, you can adjust it. You have got a lot of settings in DSLR where you can adjust and you can again get the shadows, the details in the shadows you can get very clearly. Yes, next ma'am. This is one disadvantage again we have got. When you take images with backlighting, a bridge camera, you have to be very careful that to expose it for the taking into consideration the backlighting, because the sky is very bright, the camera tends to underexpose the image. So we have to override that. And there's a limitation in the bridge cameras where up to a certain limit only you can override that. That is known as the exposure value. Beyond that, we can't do it. So the limitations are there in bridge cameras, and the DSLRs are far superior in that. You can go to a higher extent in overexposing or underexposing using a DSLR. In bridge cameras, that limitation is there with you. But you can look at these images. You see, these are taken by a bridge camera. They are exceptionally good images. So it all depends. That's why I said in the beginning that you should understand what your camera can give you, and you work in that limit only. The limitation of the camera, if you understand once, then you can use the camera and will get very good results. So a bridge camera, I would say, though I'm using a DSLR, I'm using a professional DSLR. I'm into professional wildlife photography, so I've got the best of equipment, but I never go on a trip without a bridge camera. I every time have it next to me. Even though I'm carrying a good camera, I'll take images with a bridge camera, because these are the images, when we can come back and look at it and yes, the bridge camera has given you very good depth of field. That is, the sharpness is good in when you just aim and shoot, the zone of focus right from 6 feet to infinity is very good in bridge cameras also. So that is why a bridge camera I have been using from the day one, and till today also I carry it with me whenever I go on a trip. Yes, ma'am.
So bridge cameras are larger in size. They are convenient, very convenient for travel, as Dr. Arvind said. And they are great for budding photographers. They offer more control over compacts and phones, enormous zoom ranges they have. Like Panasonic Lumix has 60 times zoom. And the structure you are trying to photograph, you can zoom in to 60 times of its size, but they have limitations, as he said, in shutter speeds and f-stops. So you should know how to have full control over your camera. It should not be controlling you. You should be controlling the camera. And lens cannot be changed. The biggest disadvantage, but that is also the advantage. You don't need to carry many lenses. Limited in quality as compared to a DSLR, and they are economical. Over to you, Dr. Hanspal.
Thank you, Dr. Archana. Good evening, everyone. Today I'll be discussing on DSLR. DSLR stands for Digital Single Lens Reflex Camera. Basically, it is a digital camera that combines the optics and the mechanisms of a single lens reflex camera with a digital imaging sensor. These are called single lens reflex cameras because the same lens is used to produce the image in the viewfinder as is used to capture the image on the sensor. As a mirror is used to reflect a portion of the light through the viewfinder, hence the name single lens reflex camera. As you can see in the slide, in the DSLR, the light travels through the lens and then to a mirror, which reflects the light onto a prism, which shows the image in the viewfinder. When the shutter release button is pressed, the mirror flips up and the light that was being routed to the viewfinder goes straight to the camera sensor. The flipping of the mirror is what gives the typical flipping or the snapping sound of the camera. Next. DSLR cameras have remained the standard for amateurs and for even professionals for the last so many decades. After the SLRs and the compact point and shoot cameras. I also graduated from a Sony compact camera to a Nikon DSLR D5300 in 2017. They have high quality and control, faster camera autofocus, faster shutter speed, almost 1 to 4,000th of a second, the ability to take long exposures up to 30 seconds, a greater range of ISO settings, which could be 100 to 12,800, even expanded to 25,600. A large number of focus points could be between 39 to 51, and a manual zoom control instead of an electronic control. The advantage of these cameras is you can have interchangeable lenses. You can use different lenses which can be mounted on the camera, which gives you more creative options. The sensor of these cameras is large in size, so it gives a higher resolution, and the improved low light performance is there. The dynamic range of these cameras is large. Even the background blur is quite a bit. So there are a lot of advantages of having a large sensor size like we have in these DSLRs. And there are a lot of lenses available which can be used. For example, you can go in for a ultra wide angle lens, a telephoto lens, fisheye lens, macro lenses, and even prime lenses which have a fixed focal length for portraits, etc. Next. Just a few disadvantages of the DSLR is basically they are large in size and heavier, and with additional lenses it becomes difficult to carry and use them. And because of these drawbacks, like Dr. Archana said, the DSLRs are losing on the market because of the latest mirrorless cameras and the mobile phones. These are the images which I have captured from Chopta, these Himalayan ranges. This is these peaks. The one on the left is Mandani and Janakut. The focal length was 130 millimeter. I zoomed in these pictures to get the peaks closer. As it was daylight, the ISO was 200. The aperture size was f10 because I wanted to keep the whole picture in focus. Next. Next. This is a shot of the moon. The focal length is 300 millimeters. The shutter speed is 1/60th of a second. Aperture is I've kept it as 5.9. The ISO is 200. You can keep it at 100 also. You'll get a good picture. Next. This is the parrot which you can see in the picture. Basically, I want to show you the depth of field. I've kept the aperture at 5.6 so that I get a good background blur. Next. Next. This is a picture of the Solang Valley in Manali. Basically, this is a wide angle shot because I wanted to get the whole landscape in the photo. The ISO is 100 because it is daylight and good sunshine. The focal length is 18 millimeter because I had to get the wide angle shot. The aperture is f10 because I wanted to have the whole picture in focus. Next. This is another picture of the flower. Flowers, basically, again, I want to show the depth of field. The flowers in front are in focus. The flower behind is a bit out of focus. Anything behind that is out of focus. So this is the depth of field which we'll be discussing in a subsequent sessions. Next. This is, I've clicked a man. Some people are working in a building across where I live in. And this is a night shot. Basically, I want to show you that I used the ISO was 3200. And with that also, I hardly got any image noise. Next, this is another, the birds are shot in Agartala, the birds in flight. Again, I want to show you the speed, the shutter speed. The shutter speed is 1 of 1 1250th of a second, so that you can freeze the flight of the bird. And last and not the least, I want to just say that for beginners, DSLR is a must, so that you learn the tricks of the trade. And believe me, you will enjoy your photography. Thank you.
Dr. Arvind.
Yes. Okay, these are images of mirrorless cameras. When we talk about mirrorless, means it is a DSLR camera without the reflex mirror which comes in the middle. In a DSLR camera, you have seen one slide where there's a mirror which directs the light onto a prism, and through that you see the image before you click. So that is a DSLR. In a mirrorless camera, they have removed that mirror. So there's no mirror in between, and the light entering the lens directly falls on the sensor, and whatever image you see on through the, if you have got an electronic viewfinder or if you are looking on the panel behind, you see it what is falling on the sensor directly. So these cameras, because of the mirror missing, they have become a little compact. Not only that, they are also less noisy. Because in a DSLR, when you click, the mirror has to go up and expose the sensor and falls back. So that can make some noise which can and has been disturbing to the birds or to people also when you are taking function photographs, suppose. So that noise is heard. So that is why mirrorless cameras are very silent. They are the best cameras if you want to click pictures without making any noise. Secondly, they being compact, they're lighter, not bulky as the DSLR. And as technology is advancing, we are getting a lot of lenses for those cameras also now. Initially, there were problems that lenses were not available for mirrorless cameras, but now Sony is making those lenses also, and now even your old DSLR lenses can be fixed to that using a ring. A third-party ring can be fixed in between. A conversion ring is there, which you can fix on the camera body of mirrorless body, and you can take images using your normal DSLR lenses. Only disadvantage at the present moment, which of course in future will be removed, is the battery life. Because we are using the battery to observe through the EVF, that is the electronic viewfinder, or to the LCD and focusing, your battery is drawn. And as the body is made compact, the battery size also is compact. So you don't get that much, that many shot don't get from one charge as you get in a DSLR. Yes, next ma'am.
And if you're using an adapter, the autofocus function is not there, does not work properly.
It does not, but now
so?
that also is, no, that is also now improved. You get high-end adapters. You get those adapters which match with those contact points of the lenses. and you can use them with the same use as a DSLR. But as you said, there might be a little lag in focusing. There can be a little lag in focusing, but anyway, mirrorless cameras, as there's no mirror in between, the focusing is done by the sensors. So it's very fast compared to the DSLR. So that lag can be overtaken. And secondly, in a mirrorless cameras, the mirror is not there. So you get much faster bursts, the shutters, you can
Yes.
click up to 30 frames a second also in high-end cameras. So which is not
Yes,
possible
yes.
with a DSLR. That is not possible with the DSLR. And less moving
So-
parts means the cameras will stay better for a longer time. They'll give you a good life. Yes, ma'am.
So then we have medium format cameras which have got sensors larger than the full frame DSLRs, but they are very costly. The price range starts from 7 lakhs, and they are used for by professionals. And the affordable Fuji GFX, they say affordable, not for everyone, but it is affordable of the lot, is from Fuji GFX, which is somewhere around 6 to 7 lakhs. And it is used for clicking photographs for the billboards, and the sensor size is bigger. And image quality is definitely better because of the big sensor size. So the $1 million question is, which camera should I buy? So before you decide on to the which camera should you buy to add to your gear, or if you are buying your first camera, know your reasons for buying, whether you want to buy it for a hobby, for a professional use, for wedding photography, for wildlife photography, for the style of photography. Then set a budget and decide whether you need it in spite of your mobile. Your reason for buying it will decide it. If you are more interested in video or stills, then discuss the reviews with the experts and look for the new entrants, and visit, this is the most important part, visit the camera shop which has a knowledgeable salesperson to guide you through the buying process, because they are a great help when you are not well versed with the new entrants. And get the feel of the camera, you hold the camera and you feel comfortable or not, that also is very important. The weight of the camera is important. Then kit lenses are usually sufficient to start with, but buy a zoom lens if you can afford, or if there is a deal. Reliable are Canon, Nikon, and Sony for new entrants, hobbies, and travel photographers who want to carry light and avoid changing lenses. Bridge cameras are a very good option, as said by Dr. Arvind, and professionals should weigh definitely between a mirrorless and a DSLR. So even age decides which camera you should buy. Children usually can click with a mobile. A younger girl would prefer a mobile phone or a bridge camera. An elder, say about more than 55, who's earning for herself and wants to learn photography, should go for an entry-level DSLR to get the final, understand the final working of a camera. She can buy a bridge camera too, and for an older woman who has now earned her quite a bit in her profession, she can go for a high-end DSLR or a mirrorless camera. And for older people like us, we want to avoid carrying weights. So maybe we shift back to mobile or bridge cameras if we are traveling. But of course, your old gear is always useful. Suppose you are going to a place and you're not going to move about a bit, you are going to sit at one place and photograph from that place, you can always make use of the heavy gear. So it's time to end the talk, and over to you, Ginny. Ginny? Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
So we
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we are all ready here to land. Thank you, viewers, for logging in and for your wonderful comments. I also thank my co-pilots, Dr. Archana ma'am, Dr. Hanspal sir, and Arvind sir.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
Thank you,
I end with a
Ginny.
yes, sir.
thank you,
I
Ginny.
end with yes, ma'am. I end with a quote to begin with: having breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and a dinner like a pauper. Thank you and namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar.
Namaste.